Welcome, everybody, to a very special episode of History Lessons. I'm your host, the journalist Sin-seer. Tonight, we have David Usman, aka Relay, as well as David Thomas, aka Flashback the Funky Tactitioner. They are the future sound. Thank you guys so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Much respect, and thank you to all your viewers.
No doubt. Let's take y'all all the way back to the early beginnings and then work our way up to what you guys got going on in
An
2025.
average day, I would say an average day would be, because we started in high school. So an average day for us might be cutting high school and going to either Manhattan or Connecticut just to, hang around. And, a lot of times we would wait till um, Flashback's parents were gone and we would hit the basement, work on some music. I mean, everything was basically, after a while, like after 88, around 88, the summer of 88, it all really became really just music because there was so much music coming out too. You know what I mean? 88 and 89, it was like music every week. It was just bombarding us. And it was just, that's what our lives was centered around. We drove around hours and hours in Westchester, Connecticut, just listening to music like Just Ice and KRS-One or the like Man and His Music. Nobody really even knows about that EP that he dropped in albums. So we would absorb all of that. We absorbed all of that, and we just meandered around. It really was just so much to absorb. From everywhere.
Right. We would experiment, making music, but also looping and just playing with our sampler and learning the sampler and just doing it really organically to the point that we learned a lot of the tricks of the trade that a lot of the professionals were doing. We were speeding records up to save sample time. We learned that organically because we didn't have enough sample time. So we were like, you know what? We could speed it up and slow it down. It still sounds clear. And we were able to kind of just work on getting more sample time. So we crafted, we learned how to be real craftsmen
I
with
mean,
what
we
little
we
we
we,
had.
we recorded, pre-production. We did all of our. We basically had the whole shebang, Volume One, done. Um, and we did it on on my Commodore 64. You know, we
And a
we
four track, a four track.
four track in a Commodore 64.
Uh,
And it was experimenting. We didn't know what we were doing. We just winged it, man. Just winged it, and whatever. We got inspiration from people too because we realized, like, when we first heard uh, people like Dayla, we first heard plug tuning and things like that. We were like, that's basically what we're doing. So
yeah,
when we heard them, it was kind of like, oh, so we can now. It felt like we were free to actually be able to come out with our stuff and able to at least show people because we didn't do that before. We made albums and just used to listen to them ourselves.
we
You know.
lost them. We've lost albums.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
real.
yeah.
So, initially, how did you guys get into production? Did you guys have a mentor?
No, it was really Flashback. He was the one who had gotten equipment, uh,
Yeah.
and he had been working on specifically hip hop for
Yeah.
about
Well,
maybe.
I've been rhyming since '83 and pretty much making music my whole life, but got to the point that I loved hip hop so much that invested in equipment. Me and this guy Relay were working together. That's kind of when we kind of got into music to the point that the investment started coming in. Invested in the four track and the keyboard, samplers, and started building the studio up and learning it just literally from the beginning, from the bottom up. But I honestly remember one of our first conversations when we first kind of met back up because we've known each other since second grade. I don't think that's something we skipped over. We've known each other since childhood, since literally the YMCA or the camp in New Rochelle. I was
Like
listening to
1978. 1978.
78, 70s, man. You know what I'm saying? When afros were all over the place and beats were real hard on the radio. Um, but yeah, so we've known each other for a long time. I did move away from New Rochelle for a few years and moved back, and that's when me and Relay kind of linked up. talking about KRS-One. It was when Scott LaRock literally had passed, and we were talking about him at Saporitos, and we kind of just started talking about hip hop, and
Saporitos is the restaurant, Italian restaurant we used to work at.
That's right. That's right. Working the Italian restaurant. So we worked together. Yeah, we've done a lot. You know what I mean? We've done a lot through this journey. But that I think is what you hear. Our names are the same. We're 3 years apart by birth. You know what I mean?
No,
We're literally
days apart.
3 days. I'm sorry, 3 days apart by birth. Same year and everything. So yeah, same name. It's crazy. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of commonalities.
Right. Prior to working with each other, did you guys be a part of any other crews or groups, and did anything materialize?
He was, not me.
Nah, yeah, I mean, because it was '83, there's a lot of crews, you know, you get into. At one point, I was with this dude named Speed. It was Flash and Speed. I wasn't even Flashback. It was Flash and Speed. He turned his name to Suave Red. Shout out to Alan. Shout out to Gino G and Pascal, Organized Rhyme. So they were a group. We were making music together. But then once I met Relay, and those conversations we were having were a lot more what I was into. They were a little bit more into like the club music and the snap type of sound. You know what I mean? There's a little bit more of the pop sound. And I was more into the grittier. We were like into the ultramagnetic, just the obscure, hard beat, whatever, rhyme about whatever, just to entertain each other. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of when we realized that we kind of had so much in common. Why not just make it happen? You know what I mean? Make a group out of it.
Right. Now, did you guys shop your demo?
You want to tell them about AIM? Or
no, because that story really starts with you too. With Gino, you know, as far as Gino's concerned, listen.
Yeah.
During the time that he was doing that, I was taking piano lessons, guitar lessons, things like that. I never stuck with anything too long to learn how to, you know, be proficient at anything. And I think that's what attracted me to hip hop, was that it was so it was easy to do. It was easy to do, and I loved doing it. I mean, I loved doing it. So when I was introduced to, you know, to Flashback, and he, you know, we started hanging out, and I got into his studio, I was almost like a duck to water when I got, you know, when I got my hands on equipment and things like that. I was pretty much, you know, I hit the ground running, you know, even with rapping, because honestly, I wasn't rapping, but I knew I could, and when I started to, things progressively came to where it just became second nature, you know, and you know, everything just fit, you know. So yeah, that's my perspective as far as, you know, how we got signed and stuff. That Flashback is more, that's more his narrative than mine.
Yeah, I can go on that, but I just want to touch on the fact that just coming from me, Relay was like he literally snapped into place. Like literally, this guy is very good at imitating shit. Excuse my language. I can talk. I can curse.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, good. So he's real good at imitating. So when we were listening to stuff and he'd be rhyming along with it, I'd hear it and I'd be like, "Damn, this cat, you know what I'm saying? He carrying it with the same cadence, which is hard to pick up. People were saying stuff, but they were saying it in their own messed up, debauchal, you know, fucked up way. And he was saying the shit tight. So I saw it, but another thing, man, I had a drum machine and I was making beats, and he kind of muscled his way onto the drum machine, which is fine because when he started tapping shit in, I was like, yo, the rhythm that this rhythm kingpin dude had was like, it was a little different. Like because I kept some of the programs and we ended up making the good stuff with one of the beats he tapped in. That's a whole other story, but like I heard it and I heard the level of rhythm. It was simple, but it was genius. And I'm telling you, like to this day, I'm still telling him. I always tell him, man, his music and his ear is genius because simple, but there's something to it that just makes it hip hop. It's hard to explain, but people understand the difference between fake hip hop and real hip hop. That what he does is like this organic, real hip hop. Like, and so I'm just saying that as a fan of my own brother here, man. It was very, very refreshing to click up with somebody who kind of had the same, literally like-minded, all the way down to the jokes and the inside jokes, to the point that you hear our album and it's like we hear it in a different way than y'all hear it. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole other story.
Yeah, that was the thing. That's the thing that a lot of critics say in their reviews of our album, that it's almost like we're in on a joke that nobody else is in on. So, and that's really kind of the nature of our relationship, really. It's nothing clandestine or anything that we're saying, any kind of different language that we're speaking. We just kind of understand each other without even talking too much or without saying too much. It's like we're always on the same page, at least musically and creatively.
Well, with that being said, though, it's kind of ill because I'm thinking about it right now. Maybe it's just that I'm drinking too, but what I'm thinking about is the fact that we did make this music, right? We made this music on our own, and we made it because the story that we leading up to, segueing into, is how do we get signed, right? So we made music. Me and Relay made music for us to drive around. So when you ask about the day in the life, we were literally listening to stuff on the radio, but also stuff we make in the basement too, and thinking about it and refining it, but also just like coming up with new stuff. What happened was one of them tapes, which had a few of the songs that we're working on, were given to our friends, right? And one of our friends happened to be Gino G and Suave Red. And they were shopping the tape to Damon Dash. So when Damon, that's Organized Rhyme, the group I told you about before, right? So still friends, we're still down, we're still like making a little music together and stuff. He has my tape. Damon and Darien and were not really 100% into the club music and asked if there was anything else. Happen to have the Future Sound, all of our songs. So we didn't even shop it. So that's what I'm thinking of is so crazy, is that we've never intended anyone to hear our music, and that's why it's an inside joke. We intended to drive around to this stuff. It's kind of crazy that like y'all tapped into it, So that, long story short, is yes, for sure. It got into the right hands. You put content out, it's gonna get into the right hands. It might take a certain amount of time, but it will get to the person that needs to hear it. You make what's in your heart, is gonna find another person that has the same commonality.
Hey, sorry about that, y'all. That's my dog.
That's the dog. Dog on the loose.